What's good? It's Khalil Jamar. Hope that all is well with you guys. If this is your first time on my channel, welcome. If this is not your first time on my channel, welcome back. I came across this video that was posted by the Mind Pump podcast titled Woke Fitness is Making You Fat and Unhealthy. Now, this is I believe it's a little bit more than an hour, but there's one part of this podcast that I did find really interesting just because what they talk about can be a very touchy subject. And that part of the podcast revolves around obesity. And they talk about an article that was posted by the Washington Post about certain myths when it comes to obesity. They only went over 2 myths in the podcast, but there are problems with these myths and their explanation. Now, the first myth that they went over is that obesity results from lifestyle choices. I'll post the explanation behind the myth so you guys can read along. But the problem with this myth is that if you look at the bottom of the explanation, they list 5 components that contribute to weight gain. And out of these 5 factors that are listed, at least 3 of them, it can be argued, are lifestyle choices and are based off of lifestyle choices. Now, the first one is sleep deprivation. Most of the time, we are sleep deprived because we are making choices that are everything but sleep. For example, if we're supposed to go to bed at 10 p.m. so that we can wake up early in the morning, a lot of us are not going to bed at 10 p.m. A lot of us are, watching Netflix. We're on our phones scrolling through social media. There's even an article that's posted that states sleep deprivation most of the time and oftentimes is driven by voluntary choices. Now, of course, there are sometimes uncontrollable factors that vary from person to person that makes certain people more prone to sleep deprivation than others. But for the most part, it is our choice and it is in our control to make sure that we get an adequate amount of sleep. The second one, it is a tough one, is medications. Even though this is a tough one, even though we might have certain conditions that require us to take medication, at the end of the day, we do choose what goes into our body. Now, if you are taking a certain medication and the side effect of that medication is weight gain, it is totally up to the person to take steps to minimize the severity of that effect. The third one is stress. Now, while we don't choose for certain situations to stress us out or certain people to stress us out, whatever the case may be, we do choose how to manage our stress. And it's ironic because one of the best ways to manage and deal with stress is through exercise, which is also one of the best ways to avoid obesity. Now, the second myth that they went over is that diet and exercise will reverse severe obesity. We do have to pay attention to words here because when they talk about severe obesity, based on the information that is used in the article and based on the explanation of this myth, they classify obesity as having a BMI of over 40. Now, I do somewhat agree with this myth because if you have a BMI over 40 and you are visibly obese, diet and exercise alone are probably not the only things that you do need to do or to adopt routinely in order to reverse severe obesity. The problem with this, though, is that BMI is not always the best indicator of obesity, and the reason why is because BMI cannot interpret the difference between bone density, muscle mass, and body fat. Even though it's not the best way, it is the most convenient way, which is why it's often used. The problem with this is that if you look at BMI on paper, you can take someone like Kai Greene who has a BMI of 44 and then take someone like CeeLo Green who has a BMI of 40. And if you can't see the two people, you're going to assume off paper that Kai Greene is more obese than CeeLo Green. But when you see them, you'll know that that's not the case. So that's the only problem with using BMI as an indicator of obesity. Guys, that is the end of the video. At the end of the day, I do not think that obesity is a choice, but I do think that habits are. Some people are more prone to obesity than others, but if you are more prone to obesity, you need to make certain choices and certain decisions so it does not lead you down a path where you become obese. But you guys let me know what you think. Do you think that obesity is a choice or not? Make sure that you do like the video, subscribe to the channel. See you guys later.